नमस्कार दोस्तों. You know that there is a new Dada in this world who is changing and trying to transform relationships all over the world, including in America and around the world. He has taken up a task of America first, and he's doing everything to make America great again. Under this policy, he is saying that all those countries who have ripped America, used tariffs in their favor, he is going to reverse that. He started with Mexico, he started with Canada, he started with China. India was spared till now, given us time to rethink our policies as far as America was concerned. There are some concerns that maybe Indian government is already giving their position. There are some concerns that maybe we are negotiating, but we do not know what is going to happen on 2nd of April when America says they are going to put reciprocal tariffs on India. Is it going to happen? Are we going to negotiate, or are we going to scum down? This is something which is going to impact Indian businesses, even Indian stock market and India's future. So there is something which is deep, which is going on, and we need to discuss that. For this, we have invited Mr. Shriram, and he's here to discuss this very, very important point. Shriram ji, thank you so much for joining, and this is the first podcast with you. I know you're not very comfortable with Hindi, so we'll do it in English only for you. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Sumeet ji, and thank you for accommodating me not to talk in Hindi because as I told you, I am a Dravidian brought up, right? When I when I grew up in Tamil Nadu, we had a anti-Hindi situation, and it's also a hot topic as we speak because there is a three-language issue that is happening in Tamil Nadu, two-language, three-language issue. So it's appropriate for me to state that I've never learned Hindi fluently to speak. I understand, but I'll make too much of grammatical mistakes in when I speak in Hindi. So it would be ridiculing the language if I started conversing in Hindi. That's why I prefer to be in English.
But for your information, I had another Tamilian. His name is PVR Nasimha Rao. He
Oh yeah.
always speaks in English. He always speaks in English. My channel is the only one. He attempted to speak in Hindi, and now he's very comfortable after two
Yeah.
shows. So this is
Yeah.
only for your reference for the future. But now coming back, India and America.
Yeah. I think what Trump is trying to do is to play to the local gallery, and of course make America great again, no doubt about it. And then he wants to do the tariff war. He wants to wage the tariff war, on every country that is fleecing America, or in his words, fleecing America with their tariff on the products that are being imported by those respective countries. And at least with respect to Mexico and Canada, he has a point because he wanted to restrict China using Mexico and Canada as a entry route to America, and then use that as a stopgap arrangement. Bring their goods and then do probably final packaging and then send it. And maybe one can understand that. But with Europe and India, everywhere he's trying to wage this war, and it is going to be very, very difficult challenge for Trump, at least because he has a very short runway of 4 years to disrupt the world economy, disrupt the American ecosystem. So one way I look at it as this tariff war with India, the least affected country out of all the countries that he is trying to impose this reciprocal tariff is India, in my opinion. For a simple reason, our exports and imports, we have a balance of trade, positive, we have a surplus in the sense with respect to America. And then in America terms, when it talks about, it's a deficit balance of trade situation of nearly about 80 to 100 million worth of trade that we are talking about. Sorry, billion. I'm not million, billion.
Yeah.
So what happens here is that we are not dependent predominantly on importing American products into the country, and of course there is a protectiveness that India has always followed, even before 90s. Before we opened up our economy to the world. until Narasimha Rao government came in, and then we became a more or less a global economy. Until such time, there was a license raj, and then we were trying to protect our Indian industries. And the disruption in 1991 was necessary because we did not have sufficient amount of foreign exchange to cover even a 15 days consumption uh, in India. So we had to abide by IMS regulations, World Bank regulations to get this assistance to sail through. And because of that, IMS imposed to Manmohan Singh, the great economist, to become the finance minister, and Narasimha Rao government accepted that, and we needed that disruption. Today, once again, 30 years down the line, Trump is thrusting that sort of a disruption on Indian economy. And do we buckle down under pressure? There are certain products, I would say it's a mixed reaction that India should be doing, not buckle down and then say, okay, rationalize all the rates to, currently our average import duty is in the range of somewhere around 11%. I'm talking about average of all put together from whichever country, but specific to America, if one has to look at it, it is about 20 to 22% is the tariff that we are charging them. Whereas when America imports goods from India, it charges about 2 to 3%. There is a huge divide, about nearly 20 percentage, difference, and hence, naturally, Trump wants to cover that, and moreover, he wants to balance the balance of trade, and then increase the exports to India. Second phenomena, especially after 2014, that came about is make in India as a concept, right? Whenever any industry wants to invest in India, because in India is a very large economy, consumption base, probably next to China. India is the largest consuming state, and then China is more or less self-sufficient. India needs a lot more, what do you call, the high-tech and pharmaceutical products and other, research-oriented imports that we still are dependent on Western economy or Western countries, or including China. We are dependent on them, but we are self-sufficient to a major extent on our day-to-day survival. So naturally, we need to protect that industry. For example, two or three areas where America is concerned about India's tariff is one with respect to motor vehicles, both motorbikes and motor cars, where our import duties are significantly higher, as high as nearly 100% on luxury product, or 150% on luxury product. Harley Davidson used to attract 150%, and hence it becomes unaffordable. Already the price of Harley Davidson is a luxury product, and hence with 150% of duty, it becomes unaffordable for many of them. So it still becomes a luxury product, remains as a luxury product. But having said that, the Bourbon, which is their Tennessee's pride of the whiskey brand, right? And that also, we have a significant amount of tariff. But in India, it is a sin product. Even Indian-made liquor, the tariffs or the rates are very high. So I don't think India would be, reducing beyond what they have reduced before Modi went to meet, Trump last month. And the third product probably, is about agricultural products, predominantly corn and apple. I think we needed to protect our own varieties of apple from Himachal and Kashmir and other apples, for us. And hence, there is a predatory taxation or tariff that we need to impose upon to protect the industry. Beyond that, I think India can compromise on some of those rates. Especially, we already have a very lowest rate on high tech imports that we have. So I think this is going to be a give and take arrangement, rather than being thrust with reciprocal tariff. What is going to be US loss if they imposed a reciprocal tariff on the products that are imported from India? Once again, US is not a large market for India. So in a 4 trillion economy, we have a huge amount of cushion maybe about the iron and steel and some of the other products where we are exporting textiles, and iron and steel is where we will have to find alternate market. And the surplus iron and steel, suppose US imposes 20 or 30% tariff on iron and steel exports from India, and it becomes dearer in the US, and hence we have to drop our export to US becomes, or drops. We need to supply this in the Asian market. We have other markets to supply, but Asian market is already crowded. So I think that is the one. Those are the one or two industries that will suffer, rather than the major impact to Indian economy. In fact, when you look at Standards and Poor or Fitch and all the rating agencies which have gone through this and then suggested that India is going to have a very minimal impact, to an extent of maximum 10 basis points, or 0.1 percentage on their GDP growth is what is going to be the impact of this tariff. And hence probably India will not and should not buckle down under pressure and then reduce the tariff or meet that whatever the US demands are. I think that's what is going to be done. And Piyush Goyal indicated that about a week or so back, saying that to the exporters to brace up for the occasion. Unfortunately, stock market is reacting uh, you know, uh, surprisingly on the stocks that do not attract tariffs at all. The technology stocks, for example, the information technology services. Today, Indian stock market, especially TCS, HCL, and other listed companies, lost about 19 percentage of the value in the last few days, if one has to look at it. And IT services or consulting services are not taxed in the US. Import of IT services is not taxed in the US. I don't see why, at least directly they are not going to be impacted. Maybe there is going to be some amount of other reasons of the technology services or IT services may get impacted. Our export of services may go down a bit for various reasons, because US will go through a bit of a recessionary trend if they go for this aggressive reciprocal taxation on China, Canada, and Mexico, because it's going to increase their inflation significantly. Most of the goods that are being sold to US, if the importer is entity of the exporting company, say for example, if Tatas are exporting iron and steel to Tata Iron and Steel USA as an entity, then the tax has to be absorbed by the US entity of Tata's, and then when they go into the market, they need to adjust this tax price, and then their forward contracts that they already have would not have taken into account these tax component, and hence they will suffer a momentary loss. I'm not going to say that it is going to be a long-term loss. For a momentary, they need to absorb this taxation, and then beyond that, the end consumer is going to be impacted by this tariff war. So, in a way, it is going to be a detrimental for America, where the inflation is going to be very high, and Americans are not used to the higher inflation trends. Unlike some of the Asian countries where we are okay with 7-8 percentage our economy, and because of the sustenance of local markets and local economy can absorb the shock. But Western market, especially America, are not used to this sort of very high inflation, and that is where he's going to lead them to. Maybe how to counter that, Trump may come up with devaluation of dollar, which is going to set the market on fire again, the entire global economy on fire. There is a talk already by few of the pundits to say that there's going to be a domestic dollar and international dollar. He will devalue the international dollar and then keep the domestic purchasing parity at as intact as it is today, backed by gold or whatever, right? So all these put together, there's a huge disruption that Trump is trying. Unfortunately, he doesn't have more than 4 years runway to do that, and his own Republicans may not support this beyond a point. If it is going to be a lot more, that because the Republican senators and congressmen are going to meet the public on a daily basis, or they are the touch points with the government, the public. So, and hence they are going to feel the pressure. I think, this is a bit of a rhetorical war he's fighting. And if he pulls through by any magic, it is going to be a success. Once again, make America great again, the, MAGA that he is talking about. But otherwise, it is going to be a mixed bag situation for Americans, especially the Republican supporters are going to have a mixed bag reaction. India, in my opinion, is going to have a very limited impact on our economy and on our GDP growth, or growth projections. But it'll initial 1 or 2 months, there is going to be a bit of a shock that we need to absorb because of this bilateral relationship, especially the trade relationship, bilateral relationship gets into a little bit of sore situation. And hence, we need to adapt to that change. But quickly our exporters can find alternate markets, if at all, it is going to be a uneconomical to export to the US. I think that's my first thought process, Sumit ji, on this particular tariff, which is going to kick in. Reciprocal tariff is kicking in next 1 week, 2nd of April. It is just coming into play.
Shriramji, there are a few interesting things you mentioned. First is that America is not used to high inflation. Already the egg prices have gone out of control, and there's a
Right.
heat. The president of America has to take care of the egg prices, because even eggs can shackle the people's confidence on the government. So we can understand that it is not that easy to bring inflation into America, and then people will take it very easily. But from history, we also see that there are two things about President Trump. With Mexico and Canada, he imposed some taxes, but immediately next day he used to U-turn.
Mhm.
Last two times he
Yeah.
has done that, and
Yeah.
he's trying to put pressure. But as soon as the pressure from public starts coming in, he backs down. Do you feel the same thing can happen with India also? He's just trying to pull the strings, put the pressure on us, but ultimately he'll do a U-turn.
I think with respect to India, he will have a longer duration before he turns around, or U-turns, because the products that are being sold from India to the US are not. Most of them are intermediary products, right? By the time the cost of this tariff gets absorbed into the cost of the final end customer consumption price, it's not going to be a overnight reaction, unlike Mexico and Canada, where it is a day-to-day consumption, dairy products, and some of the cereals, breakfast cereals, and electricity, energy, products, right? Immediate
Even
impact.
fruit vegetables.
And fruits and
Even fruit
vegetables, right?
vegetables.
Yeah, South American fruits come, especially from Mexico. The fruits and vegetables, immediate impact on the wallet of the American common people, right? And that is going to have an immediate reaction, because till yesterday I was spending maybe a weekly $30-40 for my grocery, and then it just gone up by double. I don't think, or one third additional, or 50% additional. Nobody is going to like that, because that is going to immediately impact them. Whereas in iron and steel, which is one of the major component that we export, textile, which at least textile, there will be an alternate supply chain that America can absorb from Vietnam or other Southeast Asian countries. Unfortunately, Bangladesh is not in a situation to supply beyond supply that can meet India's export on the textile products, or garment products. Currently, Bangladesh situation is so bad that they won't be able to meet their commitments, or they won't be able to supplement India's volume. So at least immediately they can actually divert some of the volume business to other South Asian countries, but he will have at least more than a month or so to play around this rhetoric, and then do the big brother attitude on the negotiation. But it depends on who blinks first. And as long as India doesn't blink first, I think he will take a huge U-turn, because American products are the India is a market for American products. And hence, you know, the moment there is a hyper nationalism kicks in from India, and then people stop or slow the purchase, slow down their procurement of American products even a bit, that's going to hurt America far more than it is impacting India. Maybe Teslas and the tax reduction on Tesla and Harley Davidson are not a common man's problem in India, because it is still a luxury product, where only the rich is going to be impacted. Fine, rich is going to pay more tax on it, or less tax on it. It's not going to be a common man's problem.
Sir, um, as rightly said, that what we are going to lose and what America is going to lose, there's a big difference. There, things will take time, maybe 1 month, but we have also seen from history
Hmm.
that America has always been a transactional country.
Right.
Wherever there is a benefit for them, they will have a relationship. And they
Yep.
don't mind having a relationship with terrorist countries, with dictators, or with democratic, or even with communists. Right? Like right now, they are ready to go with a communist Russia than a so-called democratic China. But
Right.
if there is a transactional relationship, then there is a strategic partnership between India and America also, because they want to counter China.
Hmm.
Don't you feel that America is overusing their cards, overplaying their cards right now when it comes to India, even though they need, and they've changed the terminology from Asia Pacific to Indo Pacific, giving a very, very clear indication this is your area, you need to counter it. I'm not ready to, balance the whole world. Why is it that you have strategic partnership, giving more role to India in Indo Pacific, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, whatever, and showing eyes also to us? Where is that transactional America gone then?
Okay, so I think that Trump's way of the transactional America is, I think, when one looks at it, Trump, for him, America first as an initiative. Whereas, the Democrats used to think that, we are big brothers, saviors of the world. And hence, they used to assume more moral responsibility, whether rightly or wrongly. That's a different story. We'll talk about it. We can debate about it. Whereas Trump's point of view with respect to what is in it for me comes first, beyond whether I'm going to be extending my helping hand to any of my friendly nations or not. So for them, it is like you rightly put it, it's a commercial transaction relationship rather than the friendly relationship that Russia and India used to have, or even Europe, even the NATO countries. See, he's willing to shed the entire NATO country for the sake of America, right? Because I don't want to be funding the NATO countries and then spend for their protection. Let them protect themselves. I think that's a right attitude from any leader who is a nationalistic leader or a hyper nationalistic leader of that country. Whereas this is where the little bit of hesitancy from India would come. At this juncture, India too needs a bit of American support because of the instability in the region. Bangladesh, though the regime change happened, one can directly attribute to the deep state from US or not, but at least there is a regime needs to be stabilized there, right? And because we have troubled neighbors across, say Pakistan already in the doldrums. The Baluchistan is ripping the Pakistanis into pieces. Of course, Tariq Taliban within Pakistan or the Taliban from the Afghanistan are actually creating more problem for Pakistan than Pakistan could create for us. But still, it's an unstable regime. Anything can happen, and they have a nuclear regime too, and anything dangerous could happen because of the frustration. Bangladesh on our eastern side, there is once again, unstable regime. Sri Lanka is slightly, crawling on their knees, and then trying to stand up with respect to their economy. And strong China supporter, communist leader is there in Sri Lanka. Even though at this point in time, Sri Lanka is not anti-India movement, but anytime it could change. So our neighboring countries, including China, forget China directly, but other neighboring countries, we have a lot of challenges. and Russia has its own problem at its backyard. So if there is a problem, Russia cannot just step in to help India. So we need some amount of helping hand or a relationship with America in this regard. Of course, we can exert our pressure through Israel or Indian American diaspora to a major extent to get what we want, but at least we still need a cordial relationship. I think that is where India will have to balance, especially on this tariff war, balance a bit and then say protect the maximum, where it is necessary, and then be lenient where it is not going to impact our, domestic industries in a major way. I think that is a well balancing rope walk that Modi has to do in the next couple of months or 3 months time. And by the time America would like you said, it'll take a U-turn, and then it'll readjust, and then cool down the rhetorical play, and then we'll get back to the negotiation table. The end of the day, I don't think Trump can put a barrel on India's head and then say take it or leave it or accept my dictum. Right? He's not in that position at this point in time. But who shoots first? I think that's where he's doing it now. And if as long as India maintains its calm and then force America to come to the negotiation table, and then give in some of these concessions on the tariff for some of the product line, I think that is where it will settle. So a bit of geopolitical, bit of diplomatic handling of this is definitely needed, and then we have a good leaders who are, I say, Dr. Jaishankar and then Modi, who are there to handle these aspects of it. It's a very tight rope walk, right? It can make or break a relationship for quite some time. And because Democrats are never friends of India, so Republicans generally are friends of India. Trump has been a friend of India. He'll definitely extend his helping hand when there is a need, but at the same time, we need to maintain that little bit of cordiality and diplomacy. I think that is where the tightrope walk comes in, Sumeet.
Shriramji, one thing we have to understand one thing, that if Trump is a nationalist, Modi ji is no less. And Trump himself said that Modi ji is a very good negotiator. And
Right.
we have seen from his 10 years, 11 years of working, he has a lot of patience. He listens, he absorbs, and he never takes any rash decisions. Trump is a rash decision maker, not Modi ji. And that
Yeah.
means we can say that Modi ji is a good punching bag. And if
Yeah.
Trump is trying to push us, then Modi ji can absorb that punch also with a pinch of
Absolutely.
salt, but take on the trade. My take on this one is that Trump might be saying a lot of things to show the nationalist Americans that look, I exposed India, I have brought them to their knees, and India has already reduced the tariffs. I think this is going to stop here.
Yeah.
Reciprocal tariffs might not come on 2nd of April. This is my take. It is like giving more time and negotiations are going on. India is trying to reduce. He can give whatever statements to his public, but somewhere I still feel, seeing America's history, they've been always a transactional kind of a country. They need us in the Asia Pacific. They need us in a lot of things, and and they also need a market to sell their products, especially Teslas,
Absolutely.
their F-35s, and their defense equipments also. And India
Right.
might say, okay, you want to put tariffs, your defense deals off the table. We are going
Yeah.
with Russia, we're going with anybody else. You are out of the table. So this America also doesn't want to do that. Their sales are reducing on F-35s. You know that Poland has reduced. Even Canada says, I don't want it. So a lot of things are there. Let's see what happens. Last question.
Sure.
You said one thing, that India's exports products like steel. Let's take steel for an example. If America puts steel tariffs on us and we're not able to export them, why can't India just keep on consuming themselves? We are a huge consumption right now. Infrastructure is already at the highest levels. The investments from the government, from the public sector is already increasing. Even if exports do not happen to America, how does it matter? We can increase Atmanirbhar, we are already there, and we can use our own consumption base to counter it. We don't need outside markets at all.
Absolutely. In fact, that is one of the strength of India. When I talked about the 4 trillion economy, the impact is going to be maybe a 0.1 percentage on the GDP because of all this tariff war, where we failed to sell or failed to meet the targets of the export targets at this point in time with America. It's going to have a very very negligible impact on our GDP growth, and maybe a bit of a spiraling effect may happen because already Asian market for steel is crowded with suppliers. So that is where US actually acts as a cushion for America and even for China to export some of their steel products. So we can find alternate use, maybe even to an extent stop your lower your productivity to some extent, so that you manage your variable costs and other stuff, and until such time find an alternate market. And steel production, it's not a perishable commodity, right? You manufacture within 2 weeks, you need to consume. You could store, maybe it's a storage cost, your inventory carrying cost may be higher and all those stuff, but one could find alternate market, or maybe absorb that price competition within India a bit, absorb that competitiveness within India, reduce the price. Then, like you said, infrastructures build can happen, or it can because domestic consumption increases, and then demand and supply will rationalize some of the domestic prices and cost on the steel prices. Naturally we are going to have a better usage within India. So I think we can absorb that. We have a cushion to absorb that shock. That's why I said first maybe a 1 or 2 months of shock absorber that we need, because it's a culturally, oh my god, I don't have export order. Okay, I think that's the only thing that I'm talking about, where we still have our economy has a cushion to absorb all this shock, but maybe for a month or so it will be a little bit of nagging point. But afterwards, we'll be back to square one without any problem. Maybe we'll find alternate market in Russia, maybe find an alternate market in African countries, Middle East, or other areas, so that we can divert this good. So it's a very very short term issue for all these exporters, because America is not a huge market for us at this point in time for our products, and hence this is not going to have a major impact on our economy. That's why probably India would be having an upper hand. At the same time, we only where as I talked about, Sumeet before, a little bit of diplomacy is needed, because we need America's support in some of the geopolitical situations. Maybe a pat on the back, or okay, as a friend, someone is waiting to help you. So that is where the give and take would happen, without hurting our own industry, without opening up second globalization, because 91 globalization was a must. That disruption was needed for India market, but we don't need a second round of globalization at this point in time. I think like I said, Modi is a strong negotiator, ultra nationalist compared to Trump, right? So I think the leadership in a good hands to protect any sort of these shocks.
But I also feel that it's not only the leaders, it's also the team. Modi's team also is ultra nationalist. They are professionals. We have Piyush Goyal, who's a good negotiator himself. We have Jai
Yeah,
Shankarji. And we should not forget that Trump's team is also filled with anti China hawks and pro India hawks also.
yeah, yeah.
So we
That's
have pro-India people there who
yeah,
respect India and who wants to have a good relationship with India to cement the relations between America and India, which have
sure,
always been under the doldrums ever since
absolutely.
Democrats were there. So I think it's a win and win position for Bharat. It's a wonderful moment to be in, to be covering all these things. And still, I stand with my own opinion, coming from a business background, that everybody's looking for something. And in
Yeah,
geopolitics, it's never a sum game. You lose something, you gain something. It's always give and take. And Modi is good in taking something and giving little. So let's
yeah,
see who wins this
yeah,
game. This big
yeah.
bog will unveil, I think so, around 2nd of April. Let's see what happens. But Shriramji, it was my first show with you. I'm glad. to have covered it in such beautiful way. It's an honor to be having to you and see you soon in the next few videos also. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is mine too. Thank you.
Thank you.